Kel Armitage had always been the kind of person who preferred plants to people. At 24, he was a xenobotanist stationed on Zephyria 7, a remote moon covered in dense alien forests and glowing fungal fields. It wasn't glamorous work, cataloging strange plants for research databases, but it kept him busy and out of trouble. That's what mattered most to Kel. Trouble had a way of finding him anyway. It started with a shimmer, deep in the forest. While scanning an unusual patch of bioluminescent moss, Kel noticed something odd beneath the roots. A faint glimmer caught his eye, like sunlight reflecting off glass buried under dirt. Curiosity got the better of him, as it often did. He knelt down and began digging carefully with his gloved hands until he uncovered a smooth crystalline object about the size of a basketball. Its surface pulsed faintly, shifting colors from deep blue to fiery orange. "This is weird," Kel muttered to himself, pulling out his handheld scanner. The device hummed softly as it analyzed the artifact. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, without warning, the crystal emitted a sharp pulse of light so bright it made Kel stumble backward. His scanner fizzled and died instantly, smoke curling up from its cracked screen. Before he could process what had just happened, the ground trembled violently. Leaves shook loose from trees overhead, and a low rumble echoed through the air. Kel looked up just in time to see a massive shadow blotting out the sky. A ship descended rapidly, sleek and black like polished obsidian, its edges lined with pulsating lights. Panic surged through him as a beam shot down from the vessel, engulfing him completely. When the light faded, Kel found himself inside the ship. His heart pounded as towering figures surrounded him, aliens unlike anything he had ever seen. They were insectoid, their elongated bodies covered in chitinous armor that gleamed faintly. Their faces were angular, with large multifaceted eyes and delicate antennae twitching constantly. One figure stood taller than the rest, her presence commanding attention. She wore intricate golden adornments across her exoskeleton, and her gaze locked onto Kel with unnerving intensity. The voice came not from her mouth, but directly into his mind, a soft yet authoritative tone that sent shivers down his spine. Asterisk, "You have awakened the Heartstone." Asterisk, Heartstone. Kel stammered, raising his hands defensively. "I didn't mean to. I didn't know." Asterisk, silence. Asterisk, she interrupted, though not unkindly. Her name, she explained, was Queen Sci-Fi, ruler of the Valith. The artifact Kel had disturbed was sacred to her people, part of an ancient tradition meant to identify those worthy of joining their society. By activating it, he had unknowingly passed some sort of test. "But I'm just a botanist," Kel protested. "I don't belong here." Sci-Fi tilted her head slightly, studying him as if weighing his words. Finally, she spoke again. Asterisk, regardless of your intent, you are now bound to us. You will remain aboard my ship until I determine your purpose. Asterisk. Bound? Remain? Kel's stomach sank. This wasn't exploration or discovery. It felt more like imprisonment. As two armored guards stepped forward to escort him deeper into the ship, Kel couldn't help but wonder, what exactly had he gotten himself into? Little did he know, this cosmic mistake would change everything, for better or worse. Life aboard the Valith ship was nothing like Kel had imagined. The Queen's chambers were breathtaking. Glowing walls that shifted colors like liquid light, floors that felt soft yet firm beneath his boots, and an air thick with a faintly sweet scent that reminded him of earth flowers. But no matter how luxurious the surroundings, Kel couldn't shake the feeling of being trapped. He wasn't a guest. He was a prisoner, albeit one treated with unsettling kindness. Every day followed the same pattern. Servants brought him meals filled with strange but delicious foods, delicate pastries that melted on his tongue, fruits that sparkled like jewels, and drinks that fizzed gently when poured. Despite the feast, Kel often picked at his food, his mind racing with questions. Why was he still here? What did they want from him? And what would happen if he tried to leave? Queen Sci-Fi visited him regularly, her presence both intimidating and mesmerizing. She moved gracefully, her golden armor catching the light as she walked. Her antennae twitched slightly whenever she spoke, as though sensing his emotions before he even voiced them. At first, their conversations were formal. She asked about Earth, its people, and its customs. Kale answered cautiously, unsure whether revealing too much might put him in greater danger. "You are different," Sci-Fi said during one such visit. Her voice echoed softly in his mind, calm yet curious. "Your species is fragile, yet you adapt quickly. Tell me, why do you study plants?" Kale hesitated, caught off guard by the question. "Plants don't judge you," he replied after a moment. "They just grow. It's peaceful." Sci-Fi tilted her head, her multifaceted eyes glinting. Asterisk peaceful. Yes, I understand. Asterisk. There was something wistful in her tone, a flicker of emotion Kale hadn't expected. For all her power and authority, she seemed lonely, burdened by responsibilities he could barely comprehend. As days turned into weeks, Kale began noticing subtle changes in her demeanor. She lingered longer during their talks, asking deeper questions about human art, music, and philosophy. Once, she even laughed, a sound so melodic it made Kale's chest tighten. Yet despite these moments of connection, tension simmered beneath the surface. Whispers among the Violet court grew louder, and Kale overheard fragments of disapproval from servants and guards alike. "He does not belong here," one muttered as Kale passed by. "The queen wastes her time on this outsider," another hissed. The most vocal critic was Lord Siran, a high-ranking general with a sleek black exoskeleton and piercing red markings. His disdain for Kale was obvious every time their paths crossed. During a formal gathering, Siran openly questioned Sci-Fi's decision to keep Kale aboard. Asterisk my queen. Asterisk Siran projected loudly, his mental voice sharp and cold. Asterisk this human brings instability. He is unworthy of your attention. Asterisk. Sci-Fi's response was immediate and firm. Asterisk enough. Siran. My choices are not yours to challenge. Asterisk. Though her words silenced the room, Kale saw the flicker of unease in her eyes. He realized then that his presence wasn't just inconvenient, it was dangerous. Every interaction, every shared glance between him and the queen, only deepened the rift within her empire. One evening, unable to sleep, Kale wandered the glowing halls of the ship. He found himself in a quiet observation deck, staring out at the endless stars. To his surprise, Sci-Fi joined him, her movements silent as ever. They stood side by side for a while, neither speaking. Finally, she broke the silence. Asterisk do, you miss your home? Asterisk, she asked softly. Yes, Kale admitted. But I'm starting to think maybe I don't belong there anymore either. Sci-Fi didn't respond right away. Instead, she placed a delicate claw-like hand on his shoulder, her touch surprisingly gentle. For a brief moment, Kale felt a flicker of hope that perhaps, despite everything, he'd found something worth staying for. But deep down, he knew the challenges ahead would test them both in ways neither could predict. As weeks turned into months, Kale's relationship with Queen Sci-Fi grew deeper, though neither of them dared to name it outright. What began as cautious curiosity had transformed into something far more meaningful, a bond that transcended language, culture, and even species. For Kale, it was both exhilarating and terrifying. He'd never imagined forming such a connection with someone so alien, yet every moment spent with Sci-Fi felt natural, as if they were meant to meet. Their shared moments became a refuge for both of them. During private sessions in her chambers, Sci-Fi listened intently as Kale described Earth's vast oceans, towering mountains, and vibrant cities. She seemed particularly fascinated by human art, paintings, music, poetry, and often asked him to explain the emotions behind them. In return, she introduced him to Valith traditions, showing him holographic displays of their history and philosophy. One evening, She even played a melody using an instrument made of crystalline strands, its sound resonating through Cal's very bones. "You are inspiring," Sci-Fi admitted one night after another long conversation. Her voice carried a soft vulnerability that Cal hadn't heard before. "Your stories remind me of what it means to dream." Cal smiled faintly, scratching the back of his neck nervously. "I'm just a guy who likes plants, Your Majesty. Not exactly inspiring." "Do not diminish yourself." She replied firmly, her antennae twitching. "You see beauty in simplicity. That is rare." Despite these tender moments, tension within the Violet court continued to rise. Lord Siran's disapproval of Cal had spread like wildfire, fueling whispers among the Queen's advisors. Many saw Cal's presence as a threat to tradition, while others viewed him as a weakness in Sci-Fi's leadership. Some even accused her of neglecting her duties because of him. The weight of these accusations visibly affected her. Cal noticed how her shoulders tensed during meetings, and how her once bright exoskeleton dulled slightly under stress. One day, Cal overheard two Violet guards arguing near his quarters. "He distracts her from ruling," one snapped. "And humans are fragile. They die too quickly. Why waste time on him?" The other retorted. The words stung, but Cal couldn't deny their truth. Humans live short lives compared to the Violet, whose lifespans stretched for centuries. If he stayed, wouldn't he eventually leave Sci-Fi heartbroken? The thought weighed heavily on him, but he pushed it aside, focusing instead on making the most of their time together. During one memorable outing, Sci-Fi took Cal to the ship's arboretum, a breathtaking garden filled with bioluminescent trees and floating blossoms. As they walked among the glowing flora, Sci-Fi paused beside a massive vine-covered structure. "This is our tree of memory," she explained. It holds the essence of our ancestors. We come here to reflect and seek guidance." Cal reached out cautiously, touching the bark. To his surprise, images flooded his mind. Visions of ancient battles, celebrations, and quiet moments of love. It was overwhelming but beautiful. When he pulled his hand away, tears glistened in his eyes. "That's incredible," he whispered. "Thank you for sharing this with me." Sci-Fi watched him closely, her expression unreadable. Then softly, she said, "Perhaps I am learning as much from you as you are from me." Later that night, lying awake in his quarters, Cal replayed her words in his mind. Was it possible that their connection wasn't just about him adapting to her world? Could he truly be helping her grow too? But as comforting as those thoughts were, reality loomed large. Back in the throne room, Lord Siran glared at Cal with barely concealed hatred, his red markings pulsing angrily. Whatever bond Cal and Sci-Fi shared, it wouldn't go unchallenged forever. And when the storm finally broke, Cal knew it would test them both in ways neither could anticipate. For now, though, all he could do was cherish each fleeting moment with the Queen, and hope against hope that their bond would prove stronger than the forces arrayed against them. Cal's growing bond with Queen Sci-Fi had become a double-edged sword. While it brought him moments of peace and understanding, it also painted a target on his back. The whispers of dissent within the Violet court grew louder, and Lord Siran was at the center of it all. His hatred for Cal wasn't just personal, it was political. By keeping Cal close, Sci-Fi risked undermining centuries of tradition, and Siran saw this as an opportunity to seize power. One evening, while exploring the ship's archives, a place where Cal often went to distract himself, his scanner picked up something unusual. A faint signal emanated from a hidden terminal tucked away in a corner. Curiosity got the better of him, and after some fiddling, he accessed encrypted communication logs. What he found made his blood run cold. Detailed plans for a coup orchestrated by Siran. The general intended to overthrow Sci-Fi during an upcoming royal summit, framing Cal as the catalyst for rebellion to rally support among the disgruntled factions. Panic gripped Cal as he read through the files. He couldn't confront Siran directly. He was no match for the towering warrior or his allies, but he knew he had to warn Sci-Fi. Yet, how could he prove what he'd discovered without endangering her further? If Sci-Fi suspected Kale knew about the plot, it would only accelerate their plans. Desperate for help, Kale turned to Mira, the young Valith engineer who occasionally assisted him with technical tasks. She was quiet and reserved, often overlooked by others, but Kale sensed she harbored doubts about Sci-Fi's motives. When he approached her in the engineering bay, she looked startled but listened intently as he explained everything. "You're risking your life telling me this," Mira said cautiously, her antennae twitching nervously. "Why trust me?" "Because I don't have anyone else," Kale admitted, "and because you're smart enough to see that Tyran's not acting for the good of your people." Mira hesitated before nodding sharply. "I'll help, but we need proof that can't be ignored." Together, they devised a risky plan. Using Mira's access codes, they infiltrated deeper levels of the ship's systems, downloading incriminating data while disabling key security measures Chiron relied on. It was painstaking work, and every second felt like an eternity. Just as they finished transferring the evidence onto a portable drive, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Guards," Mira hissed, shoving the device into Cal's hands. "Go. I'll distract them." Kale didn't argue. He sprinted down twisting corridors, heart pounding as shouts echoed behind him. He barely made it back to his quarters when the door burst open, revealing two armed Valith soldiers loyal to Xaran. They grabbed him roughly, dragging him toward the throne room. When Kel was thrown before Sci-Fi, he expected anger, or worse, betrayal. Instead, her expression softened as she sensed his distress through their psychic link. "What is this?" Siran demanded, stepping forward. "The human has been tampering with restricted systems. Treason." Before Kel could defend himself, Sci-Fi raised a hand, silencing everyone. Her gaze locked onto Kale, filled with both suspicion and trust. "Speak." She commanded, her voice echoing in his mind. Taking a shaky breath, Kale held out the drive. "This contains proof of Tyran's plans to overthrow you. He wants to use me as an excuse to divide your empire. Please, listen." For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Then Sci-Fi turned to Xaran, her golden armor gleaming ominously under the chamber lights. "Is this true?" She asked, her tone icy. Xaran sneered, unflinching. "Glees spread by this outsider. Do not let him poison your judgment, **. But Sci-Fi wasn't fooled. With a wave of her hand, she activated the drive's contents, projecting the stolen communications onto the walls for all to see. Gasps rippled through the assembled court as Siran's treachery was laid bare. Fury burned in Siran's eyes as he lunged toward Sci-Fi, but guards loyal to the Queen intercepted him, pinning him down. "You dare betray me?" Sci-Fi's voice thundered, resonating through the room. "Your ambition ends here." As Siran was dragged away, Kale slumped to the floor, relief washing over him. But the victory came at a cost. Trust within the Empire was fractured, and Sci-Fi now faced the monumental task of rebuilding unity among her people. Looking down at Kale, she extended a claw-like hand to help him up. "You have proven yourself more than I ever anticipated," she said softly. "But know this, our path forward will not be easy." Kale nodded, meeting her gaze. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he was ready to face them, with her by his side. The Royal Summit was meant to be a celebration, a gathering of Valith leaders and diplomats from across the Empire to discuss unity and progress. But instead, it became a battlefield. Siran's coup attempt had shaken the very foundation of Sci-Fi's rule, and though he'd been captured, his supporters remained scattered throughout the court, simmering with resentment. The throne room buzzed with tension as delegates filed in, their bioluminescent markings flickering uneasily. Kale stood near Sci-Fi, feeling out of place among the towering Valeth figures. He wore simple clothes compared to their ornate armor, but his presence at the Queen's side sent a clear message. She trusted him, despite everything. That trust made him a target, and Kale knew it. Every glance from the crowd felt like a dagger aimed at his back. When Sci-Fi rose to address the assembly, her voice resonated powerfully, silencing the murmurs. Asterisk, today we stand at a crossroads. Asterisk, she began, her golden exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber lights. Asterisk, betrayal has tested us, but we will emerge stronger. Together, we must decide what kind of future we wish to build. Asterisk. Her words were met with mixed reactions. Some nodded in agreement, while others exchanged skeptical glances. Then, chaos erupted. A group of armed guards loyal to Xiren stormed into the chamber, weapons drawn. Shouts filled the air as delegates scrambled for cover. Sci-Fi's own guards moved quickly to shield her, forming a protective circle around the dais. Kale froze for a moment, overwhelmed by the sudden violence. But then instinct kicked in. He remembered Myra mentioning weaknesses in Valeth physiology. Their exoskeletons were tough, but joints and antennae were vulnerable. Grabbing a fallen spear from one of the attackers, he darted forward, aiming carefully before striking an assailant's exposed knee joint. The guard collapsed with a pained screech. Myra appeared beside him, tossing him a small device. Electromagnetic pulse disables their weapons, she shouted over the commotion. Kale activated the device, sending a wave of energy rippling outward. Several guards' weapons sputtered and died, giving Sci-Fi's forces the upper hand. Amidst the chaos, Kale spotted Xiren himself leading the charge, his red-marked exoskeleton glowing fiercely. Asterisk, enough of this farce. Asterisk, Xiren roared, lunging toward Sci-Fi. Before he could reach her, Sci-Fi stepped forward, radiating authority. Her psychic projection hit him like a physical force, slamming him against the wall. Asterisk, your treachery ends now. Asterisk, she declared, her voice colder than ice. But Xiren wasn't finished. With a defiant snarl, he activated a hidden mechanism on his wrist, releasing a cloud of shimmering gas. It spread rapidly, disorienting everyone except those wearing specialized masks, including Xiren and his closest followers. We have to stop them, Kale yelled to Myra, who nodded grimly. Working together, they managed to disable part of the ventilation system, containing the gas before it overwhelmed the entire chamber. Meanwhile, Sci-Fi confronted Xiren directly, her claws clashing against his blade in a fierce duel. Sparks flew as metal scraped against chitin, each strike echoing through the tense silence. Finally, with a swift motion, Sci-Fi pinned Xiren to the ground, her claw pressing dangerously close to his throat. Asterisk, surrender, asterisk, she commanded, her voice unwavering. For a moment, Xiren resisted, hatred burning in his eyes. But when reinforcements loyal to Sci-Fi arrived, outnumbering his remaining followers, he relented. Defeat weighed heavily on his face as he was dragged away once more. As the dust settled, Sci-Fi turned to Kale, her expression softening. Asterisk, you fought bravely today, asterisk, she said, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. Kale smiled weakly, exhaustion washing over him. I just did what I had to do. Though the immediate threat was neutralized, the scars of betrayal ran deep. Trust within the Empire would take time to heal. But for now, Sci-Fi's leadership had been reaffirmed. And Kale realized something important. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was fighting. For her, for their bond, and for the fragile hope of a better future. Together, they faced the aftermath, knowing that rebuilding wouldn't be easy. But neither of them was alone anymore. The aftermath of the Royal Summit left a heavy silence hanging over the Valeth Empire. Though Xiren's rebellion had been crushed, its impact rippled through every level of society. Delegates who had once pledged loyalty to Queen Sci-Fi now eyed her with cautious uncertainty. Whispers of dissent lingered in the shadows, fueled by lingering resentment toward Kel. To many, he remained an outsider, a symbol of change they weren't ready to accept. For Kel, the weight of his role was becoming unbearable. He could feel the stares of suspicion whenever he walked through the halls of the palace. Some Vaelith avoided him altogether, while others glared openly. Even Mira, who had risked everything to help him expose Actiran's plot, seemed distant lately, as if afraid of being associated with him. Kel couldn't blame them. Their world was built on tradition, and his presence disrupted that balance. But it wasn't just the court's disapproval that troubled him. It was Sci-Fi. Since the battle, she'd withdrawn slightly, retreating into herself as she grappled with the fallout from the coup. She spent long hours in private meetings, trying to mend fractured alliances and reassure her people. When they did speak, her words were measured, tinged with an exhaustion Kel hadn't seen before. One evening, as Kel wandered the glowing corridors of the ship, he found Sci-Fi standing alone in the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. Her golden armor gleamed faintly in the dim light, but her posture was slumped, uncharacteristically weary. "Your Majesty," Kel said softly, approaching cautiously. Sci-Fi turned to face him, her multifaceted eyes reflecting both sadness and determination. "Kel, she replied, her mental voice quiet. "I have something to say, something I've been avoiding." He nodded, bracing himself for what came next. "You've done more for me than anyone else ever has." She continued. "But your presence, it divides my people. If we continue down this path, I fear it will only lead to more conflict." Kel felt his chest tighten. "Are you saying I should leave?" She hesitated, her antennae twitching nervously. "No. Not unless you wish to go. But staying means embracing a life among us, a life tied to mine. And that comes with sacrifices. You would be giving up your home, your people, everything familiar to you." Kel stared at her, his mind racing. The thought of leaving Sci-Fi filled him with dread, but the idea of staying meant stepping fully into a world that still rejected him. Could he truly belong here? "I don't know if I'm strong enough for this," he admitted finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Sci-Fi stepped closer, placing a delicate claw-like hand on his shoulder. "Strength isn't about never doubting yourself, she said gently. It's about choosing to move forward despite those doubts. If you stay, I promise you won't face this alone." Her words struck a chord within him. For so long, Kel had drifted through life, avoiding responsibility and connection. But since meeting Sci-Fi, he'd discovered something worth fighting for, a purpose greater than himself. "I'll stay," he said firmly, meeting her gaze. "Not because I think it'll be easy, but because I believe in what we can build together." A flicker of relief passed over Sci-Fi's face, followed by a soft smile. "Then let us begin anew, she said. Together. Over the following days, Sci-Fi took steps to address the divisions within her empire. She announced plans for reforms, encouraging dialogue between factions and promoting inclusivity, not just for humans like Kel, but for all species under her rule. While resistance remained, there were signs of hope. Some delegates began warming to Kel, impressed by his bravery during the summit and his willingness to adapt. As Kel stood beside Sci-Fi during one such meeting, he realized that his journey wasn't just about survival or love. It was about forging bridges where none existed before. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time, Kel felt certain that he was exactly where he was meant to be. With Sci-Fi by his side, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Months had passed since the royal summit, and while tensions within the Vaelith Empire still simmered, there was a growing sense of renewal. Under Queen Sci-Fi's leadership, and with Kel by her side, a new era was beginning to take shape. The once divided court now gathered not for debates over betrayal but to celebrate unity. Delegates from across the galaxy arrived on the Violet ship for the inaugural Intergalactic Accord a treaty aimed at fostering cooperation among species. Kale stood beside Sci-Fi on a grand balcony overlooking the capital city below. Thousands of beings, Violet, humans, and countless others, filled the streets, their diverse forms creating a vibrant tapestry of life. Lights danced in the sky, blending Earth-style fireworks with the shimmering bioluminescence unique to the Violet. It was a moment of hope, one that Cal could scarcely have imagined when he first stumbled upon the crystalline pod on Zephyria 7. "You've done it," Kale said softly, turning to Sci-Fi. "This is your vision coming to life." Sci-Fi tilted her head slightly, her golden armor catching the glow of the celebrations below. "Asterisk, not mine alone." "Asterisk," she replied, her mental voice warm. "Asterisk. This is our achievement, Kale. Your influence has been invaluable." Asterisk. It was true. Over time, Kale had become more than just an outsider. He had become a bridge between worlds. His knowledge of human culture helped ease misunderstandings, and his empathy allowed him to connect with species vastly different from his own. Together, he and Sci-Fi worked tirelessly to draft policies that respected tradition while embracing progress, a delicate balance neither took lightly. As they watched the festivities unfold, Mira approached them, her demeanor far less reserved than before. She gave Kel a small nod of acknowledgement, a gesture that spoke volumes about how far they'd come. "The delegates are ready for your address, Your Majesty," Mira said formally, though a hint of warmth lingered in her tone. Sci-Fi nodded and turned back to Kale. "Asterisk, will you join me?" Asterisk, she asked. Kale hesitated, feeling a pang of nervousness. He wasn't royalty or even a diplomat. He was just a botanist who'd accidentally stepped into a cosmic drama. But Sci-Fi's steady gaze reassured him. "I'll be right behind you," he said finally, offering her a smile. Together, they descended to the main hall, where representatives from dozens of species awaited them. As Sci-Fi ascended the dais, the room fell silent, every eye fixed on her radiant presence. Asterisk, today marks a new chapter for all of us, asterisk, she began, her voice resonating deeply. Asterisk, we gather not as enemies or strangers, but as equals united by a shared desire for peace and understanding. Our differences make us stronger, not weaker. Let this accord serve as proof that we can overcome division and build a brighter future together. Asterisk. When she finished, applause erupted, filling the chamber with waves of sound. Then, to Kel's surprise, Sci-Fi gestured for him to step forward. Asterisk. And let us also honor those who dare to cross boundaries, asterisk, she continued, looking directly at him. Asterisk. Kel Armitage represents what is possible when we choose connection over fear. His courage reminds us that no matter how different we may seem, we are all part of the same universe. Asterisk. The delegates rose to their feet, cheering not just for Sci-Fi, but for Kel as well. For the first time, he felt truly accepted, not as an outsider, but as someone who belonged. Later that evening, as the celebrations wound down, Kel found himself alone with Sci-Fi on the balcony once more. The stars stretched endlessly above them, infinite and breathtaking. "It's strange," Kel mused, leaning against the railing. "I thought I came here by accident, but now, I feel like this was always meant to happen." Sci-Fi moved closer, her claw-like hand resting gently on his. Asterisk, perhaps fate works in mysterious ways, asterisk, she said softly. Kel chuckled, shaking his head. Fate, huh? Never thought I'd believe in something like that. They shared a quiet laugh, the kind born of mutual understanding and trust. In that moment, surrounded by the beauty of the cosmos and the warmth of their bond, Kel knew one thing for certain. He wasn't the same person who'd wandered those alien forests months ago. He'd started as a simple xenobotanist, but now he was so much more, a partner, a leader, and a beacon of hope. And as long as Sci-Fi stood beside him, he believed anything was possible. Above them, a single shooting star streaked across the sky, its light lingering for just a moment before fading away. Yet its brilliance remained etched in their hearts, a reminder that even the smallest actions could spark change across the galaxy. For Kale and Sci-Fi, the journey was only beginning.